Okay, we should have audio back. I apologize, there was a configuration issue I had to deal with that occurred in the way that I resumed from the previous break, and I thought it was something else, which is why I wrapped it up, but everything's fine. I apologize for that confusion. Welcome back in. Hopefully we've got everybody back. And what was missed prior was me simply explaining that I was gonna run the cable here from the fan onto the header on the motherboard. There are two headers, one beside the other. And not all motherboards have that feature, and it's important you plug into the proper header. There are two here because, well, quite frankly, more and more people are using two fans, and so you would just run the other fan to the other header. Which fan goes to which header? That's what I was explaining when the audio wasn't working. And also the danger of wire ties. Any wire ties that are in use in your computer should all be removed. Whether or not you need that particular wire is irrelevant. If it's a wire tie, it should be replaced with a nylon zip tie. The rest of the components that are left over from our heatsink install are for AMD or other socket types, thermal compound, and the extra wire hangers. If another fan was to be added, it would just go right in there like that. And then that will go in the motherboard box right along with all the other spare parts that we're not going to use. Just like that. And of course, these documentation, this cover, this documentation, and this documentation will also all go into the motherboard box. And let's see, the screwdriver is the customer's now. They've got that. These are the extra screws for, oh, this also goes to the heatsink. Once again, for a different socket type. We'll keep all those together in a separate Ziploc bag. And what I'll do is I'll just get a Sharpie marker and we'll write on there, this is just CPU cooler. Just put CPU cooler parts. There we go. And then that, of course, is that little tiny M.2 screw for the other socket, because he can have up to 2 M.2 drives. So, something else, I just recently received the laptop that I ordered for. It occurred to me that if I'm going to be streaming in other locations, I don't want to have to bring the streaming computer with me. It's a lot to bring. I have to bring keyboard, mouse, monitor. So I decided I was going to order a laptop. I generally look for refurbished laptops to save money. I recommend pretty much any major manufacturer apart from HP and Toshiba. So I would look at Lenovo, I look at Dell, Sony. Sony sold off their VAIO division, so I'm not sure who makes that now, but I went with a Dell XPS 15, and there'll be a review of this coming up in the future, the near future. It's pretty interesting because it's got 2 video cards in it. It's got the onboard Intel Graphics 630 HD, which is part of the CPU, which is a Core i7 CPU. And it's got a NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti in here as well. And it had a version of Windows 1803 was installed, and it was several BIOS versions behind, so I went ahead and put 1809 on there with updating the BIOS. And it's a laptop, you know, it does what I'm gonna need it. I'm sure it will do what I need it to do for video editing and video streaming. And I'll probably use this in my presentations. I have a couple of Computer Club presentations coming up this month and next month. They have a little informational flap here. It's like magnetic. It's kind of interesting how Dell does this with all this information here. And it just magnetizes and keeps it closed. It's good that it keeps it covered because they used to just put stickers on the bottom of the laptop and they would get worn from people, you know, using the laptop and moving it around, and it would just, you know, the first thing to get worn off is all the words. Like an old used keyboard, you know, where the letters start fading off. But it's a decent laptop. It's thin. It's not very heavy. You can do gaming on it, clearly. It's a pretty nice design. And again, this was purchased by me with you guys make this stuff possible. Interesting, they moved the webcam down here instead of up here at the top. Power button, touchpad, it's all pretty standard stuff. 512 gig NVMe drive with 16 gigs of RAM. and a Core i7. This is the Dell XPS 15, and it'll be interesting to see how loud the fan gets. Anytime you go with a smaller design, you got to deal with fan noise, but you can tune all that for performance or you know, noise. Basically, you can tune it the way you prefer it. And if everything works great with this, then I plan to take this with me to Michigan when I stream. And I'll just go old school with how I was streaming before with a USB capture instead of the internal capture, which I obviously can't use. I'm a little baffled right now because it seems to always default to the Intel onboard graphics. I'm not quite sure how to get it to switch over to the NVIDIA graphics, and I can't update the NVIDIA graphics driver because it doesn't see an NVIDIA graphics card. So I've got a little learning curve to deal with there to figure out how to, you know, specify which card, which video card I want to use. So it's interesting. It's just interesting to look in the device manager and see two graphics card listed and to find out the one I'm using is the desktop one. Now it makes sense because the desktop graphics card uses less power. I understand why it would default to that, but I don't see how I can manually switch it over. When I have time, I will get to that. When I have time, I'll get back to the other Dell refurbished, and when I have time, I will get back to the other systems and other projects that were started. So that will be a review coming up. I'm still learning about this, you know, the idiosyncrasies of this laptop. But so far, everything is as I expect it to be, and I'm just excited to have it and start using it. Normally, I buy a laptop about every 5 or 6 years. This one is the first laptop I bought that can actually do video editing, in theory. So that means I should be able to get more editing done since I'm not tied to a specific computer. I can theoretically do it anywhere. Hopefully that works out like that. So, let's make sure everybody is watching correctly. I don't think I am logged in correctly because I haven't seen a new chat message in like, well, since I started. Let's see. Ah, yes, that's better now. King Lee says the laptop will use the Intel and under load it'll use the 1050. Yes, I understand that, but there should be a way for me to manually select that 1050. Steve Sabaha says it's perfect for video editing. I'm looking forward to actually starting to use it. I've just been doing nothing but updating it and you know, getting drivers on there. For some reason, Windows wasn't activated and refused to activate. There's no product key anywhere on the laptop or in the box. But when I upgraded to 1809 and then went through the updates after that, then it said Windows was digitally activated. So I'm not sure what happened or why. When I contacted the seller did not respond to me. So that's never good. You know, it's a $1,500 laptop, and if I ask you a question after I made a purchase from you, you should answer it. I guess I'm just an unreasonable guy. But anyway, figured it out one way or another. Let's take a look here. What year? I don't know. 2019? Why are you asking me what year it is? You time traveler? It's not a used laptop. That's a new laptop. John Craig says, I have the same laptop and the graphic shifts automatically. Again, I'd still like there should be a way for me to select which one I want to use rather than have blind faith. But I'll listen, I'm talking before I have any experience with it. So after I get familiar with it, I should be able to give you more accurate information with regards to what my thoughts are, if it meets my needs or not. And it'll start with a presentation. That'll be the first official thing I need to do with it, is to, you know, just do basic output to a projector. And I was worried because I wasn't sure that it had an HDMI out. Some laptops only are using USB-C Thunderbolt type interface, But this does have USB, I'm sorry, this does have HDMI out, and it has USB Type-C, and it has Thunderbolt. And I mean, it's just, I think it's even got an empty M2 socket in there if I want to use it. And even has RAID mode. I don't know why SATA RAID mode was enabled in the BIOS. And it's weird because when I turned the RAID mode off and switched it to ACHI mode, which is where it should have been, Windows wouldn't boot up anymore, which shouldn't have had any effect on Windows because it's not on SATA, it's on NVMe. So just booting into safe mode and then restarting always corrects that, and it did. But it was just interesting that they chose to configure it that way out of the box. There were a couple other settings in the BIOS that were not tuned properly, so I've adjusted those. I can't remember what they were anymore, but there was nothing that I saw in the BIOS for enabling or disabling the onboard video. So I'll learn more about that as time goes on. There may be a Dell utility. I don't know how you can update the NVIDIA graphics driver on it because it refuses to see the graphics card. When you go to the NVIDIA site, there are two types of drivers. There's desktop drivers and notebook drivers. It doesn't recognize either one. I think it's seeing the Intel card and going, you don't have compatible hardware. The latest driver available on the Dell website is from 3 or 4 months ago. So there's newer updates from NVIDIA since then, and I would like to have the latest NVIDIA driver. Not quite sure how or if that impacts rendering time or not, but if I have the latest driver, I would feel better. So I wouldn't have to worry if it's working optimally. Mike Hillman has contributed $5 Canadian. He says, I just got a dead on arrival MSI motherboard today. Have you had any AM4 boards DOA? Everything I do that you've seen live here is all live, and never once have we shown a dead motherboard. It's just never happened. So no, usually the boards are not dead. It's usually user error in most cases. It could be that you're trying to put a more modern CPU in like a Ryzen 2 onto a board that's compatible if the BIOS is not updated. And then you would reach out to AMD for their flash kit, which they'll send you for free, but you've got to contact them if that's the problem. Otherwise, it's usually something the user has done, power problem. It's very, very rare nowadays to get a brand new board, especially from a big manufacturer like ASRock, MSI, Gigabyte, or Asus. That's just dead. It's possible, but it's highly unlikely. That being said, you've got your 30 days to return it to the retailer, which can often be more expedient than dealing with the manufacturer, or you can choose to perhaps take a deep breath and think about it a little more thoroughly to, instead of immediately thinking the motherboard's bad, question yourself. One has contributed $5. He said, I had a Cooler Master Hyper 612 brackets touched and literally sat on capacitors. Didn't know if that was okay, so I got a Cooler Master 240 milliliter. Oh, a Cooler Master 240 ml, which is what, maglev? Okay, so anyway, ideally you don't want parts touching if for no other reason than the vibration of the noise of the rotating fan hitting something. Not so much an issue of short-circuiting anything. The top of a capacitor is grounded. There's no harm in that, but there could be harm of the constant vibration, vibrating the capacitor loose, or the soldering points, fracturing those soldering points, as well as I mentioned, the vibration noise caused by vibration. So you prefer that things that don't touch where they shouldn't for those reasons. The fan doesn't spin up at all. Board has the most recent BIOS. So that so here's the thing. You have to understand what the word DOA means. So dead on arrival means it's dead. Dead meaning it does the same thing on that it does off, which is nothing. It's dead. So when you use the word DOA, what you're telling other people is the product is behaving like a brick. In other words, it doesn't power on, it doesn't respond to anything, no lights come on, no fans turn. You can't possibly know what BIOS version you've got if the machine won't turn on, and it won't turn on if it's DOA. So you don't have a DOA part. You're having another configuration type problem, which is, so this is what makes technical support so difficult, is people use the wrong terminology and communicate poorly. Now I understand not everybody's a computer person, and that's why you shouldn't make bold statements like that. That's why you should ask questions rather than make statements. Instead of saying my board is DOA, say I am having this specific problem, what do you think it could be? And you would get more efficient help with clearer communication. Anyway, let's see what else we have here in the chat that I'm missing. Winston is in there. Winston Anglu from Canada. He says, you're cool in Vancouver, Canada. Thank you, Winston. I see Sharon Idle joins us. Sharon's been a big fan of the channel for a long time. Thank you, Sharon, for joining me. And Sharon is also a musician. If you like electronic music, definitely check out Sharon's channel. Man, I've been listening to this song. I swear I can't get it out of my head. It's called Salvation, and it's by a group called the Strumbellas. And I listen to other music by the Strumbellas, and I don't like any of it, but this song is unlike anything they do, and it's just rolling and rolling and rolling and over in my head, and it's very catchy. So if you choose to listen to it, I am not responsible for the earworm of the chorus. Okay? Just say. Great song. NVIDIA settings and control panel should sort the problem. That makes sense. Thank you for that tip, John. That's from John Craig. Sean Baxter says, hello. Hi, Sean. Sharon can post a link to her website or her music. It's certainly always welcome. Anybody who's in blue has permission to post links. Carrie, do they make those gloves in finger cots? I don't make gloves, and I don't wear finger cots. But a pair of scissors will solve that problem. But I imagine somebody makes them. I don't use them. I don't like that. But again, it's not my field of expertise, so I couldn't answer your question with any sort of authority or confidence. Perry says, I had to ban a troll. Well, that's great. That's why your name is in blue. We're all good. We're all good. Thunder Domain says, I hope you get our contribution, £4.99. It was our first time, but it's worth it for your channel. It helps us a lot watching you build and advise. Thanks, Gary. Well, thank you, Thunder Domain. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Yeah, so the Dell is an XPS 15. It's a current model, and as far as I know, the 1050 Ti is the most powerful graphics card in the XPS 15 lineup. But for what I'm doing with it, I don't think PowerDirector from Cyberlink really benefits at all, going from the 1050 Ti to the 1060. So it wasn't an option for me, basically. Okay. Patrick says, Dell BIOS have no option to disable onboard video. Yeah, that's what I just said. There's no option in the BIOS to disable the onboard video. Thank you for the echo. Just kind of looking through the chat right now. Okay, yeah, I think I'm caught up. All right, so with the motherboard completely prepped, and I just want to go one more time back over what we have done. So in the previous video, we've got the case prepped, we've got the motherboard prepped, and now it's time for us to put the motherboard into the case to marry these two things together. And the way that's done is very difficult to film, but I'll do my best to give you guys the best angle and view that you can get. And the way that I do that is lay the case flat so that you're working with gravity rather than against it. So let me move this aside here for just a moment, and we'll grab the case and flip it down onto the Lazy Susan right here, and then we'll get you switched over to the big camera here. There we are. Let's see if we can zoom us out. Can we go further? It looks like as far as it's going to go. So this is the front of the computer, this is the back, this is the bottom where the power supply is, this is the top, right, this is the top. So you have all your angles correctly that you're seeing everything. These are standoffs. Now the Corsair 200R has the standoffs all pre-installed in the standard industry accepted positions, which shouldn't require any changes, but we need to verify that. So I'm gonna grab the board, and the best way to pick this board up, once you have a heatsink on it, is to just hold it by the heatsink. And with the I/O ports facing the I/O shield, you'll come down into the case very gently, slowly, so that you wanna get all these cables out of your way, because they will get in the way, believe me, they'll just jump right under there, because that's the kind of cables they are. Just get them all out of the way. And in this center post, right, this hole right here is a center post that's going to come through there and hold the board into position for us. Now this board has 1, 2, 3 mounting holes across the middle. It's got 1, 2, 3 mounting holes across the bottom, and 1, 2, 3 mounting holes across the top. So we're going to need 8 screws. But you just counted 9 holes. Yes, because as I mentioned, there's a metal post that's going to come through this hole once we've aligned everything correctly. So the way you align it is you're going to look at that rear I/O shield right back here. Let's turn this around. And then let's get you back on the main camera again. And when we turn this around, what I'm talking about is we need to align the input and output ports, or the I/O ports on, right? I/O shield. This is where all your input and output, this is where your speakers and your Ethernet and your video that's built in, that's all coming through these holes in the I/O shield. And we've got to line those ports up with those holes. So I'm going to grab the case, I'm going to grab the heatsink, and I'm going to tilt the motherboard up, as you can kind of see through the holes. I'm tilting the board up to align the ports with the holes. And making sure I don't have any cables in my way. Make sure that there's no metal grounding straps that come down and bend down and cover the hole. And once you've got that aligned, you should be able to reach into the case and push the board. Let me see, where's my mouse? Where'd my mouse go? You should be able to push the board towards the back until that metal post comes up through that center hole that I was talking about earlier. And that holds the board into position. and I can already see it's not lined up correctly. If we look back at this view again, you see it's bowing, and you can see that these are just shifted a little bit off, like that square optical port is not centered through the hole. And rather than wiggle it around and try and fix that, I want to just lift the board up off of that post and then take another secondary approach at lining that up and then pushing it forward again. Let's see, there's this weird resistance here. Yeah, it just seems off for a little bit for some reason. It appears that these two little metal grounding straps are just too far down and they're blocking the installation. And this is very common on cheap I/O shields, and Asus, quite frankly, is better than this. As far as I'm concerned, this is a disappointment in manufacturing, because other manufacturers like Gigabyte moved away from these little metal, let's see if I can give you a better view of what I'm talking about. There's these little metal, come on. On the I/O shield, it's gonna be impossible for me to film this. The fan is blocking your view. There's metal tabs that are sticking out. Now, most manufacturers were using those 10 years ago, even 6 years ago, but have since moved to like a foil backing or a different implementation of those grounding straps. On those grounding straps, they get bent while you're installing the board, as you're installing the board, and then they interfere with the front I/O here. So just bear that in mind as I try and wiggle this around and get all those ports to line up right. So right now you should be looking in the top right corner of the video. I want to get those ports lined up. Want to make sure there's no cables or anything under the board that could interfere with the installation, including this rear case fan, which is all looking good. And then I'm going to push the board forward and down, and that seems to have seated a little better, a little more confidently, but still not quite. I'm still seeing these two bow really badly right here. There's two straps bowing. Let's try it again. Patience, you may have to try it a number of times. That's what it was. It went in so much easier now. Those straps are no longer visible. Nothing's being blocked. Everything is clearly visible here on this I/O. Again, you should be looking at the top right corner of the video right now. Everything here is lining up as it should. It's important you check that, because otherwise you'll be taking all the screws back out. So it's easier to do it now. Take your time, enjoy your build, don't get frustrated. If you get frustrated, walk away from it and come back after you've had a chance to calm down and relax a little bit. So with that being done, I can now put the screws in to secure the board into place. And so I've got 2 bags of screws here. Right, I've got, wow, look at those veins. Holy smokes. Sorry, we'll take me apart later. We'll see how that works. I've got screws that have a very thin thread and screws that have a very coarse thread. And so these have a thin thread, these screws right here, and these screws have the coarser thread. I want the coarser thread screw, and I need 8 of those. And we're just gonna simply start them in all 8 holes, and once they're all started, we'll tighten them down to the specification on the electric screwdriver. I would advise you to not use an electric screwdriver during installation. You can use them all you want when you take something apart, but it's very easy to cross-thread a screw and not realize it, unless, like me, you've got an intimate relationship with your cordless driver. That doesn't sound right, but I know this driver. I know how it's supposed to sound. I know how it's supposed to feel. I've got many hours of use with it, and I'm very confident that I can do this. If you don't have that confidence, turn these screws by hand. So that's 2. Let's see, we're gonna go. And I'm just placing them randomly. These don't have to go in any order. 5, 6. Oops, too much. All of these wires from the power supply are getting in my way, so I'm going to take the wire tie off and drape these over the edge just to make my life a little easier. And these wire ties, as I say, they've got metal in them. And you don't want a piece of metal floating around inside your computer which got power running through it. Over time, and especially here in Phoenix, these wire ties, they get brittle and they break, even though you may not have moved the PC or anything, and then they fall from wherever they were tied. And if they fall and ground or short out something on your board or under your board, it can completely toast your equipment, and that again would not be a warranty issue. So you want to replace all wire ties with nylon zip ties, regardless if you're using the wire or not. Keep all metal out of the case that doesn't belong there or could potentially be a problem, and this would potentially be a problem. I've done this so many times where I've had to basically tear apart computers to get all the little bits out. And if you're lucky, it just shorts something out where the computer won't work until you fix the short. If you're lucky, it doesn't cause permanent damage. Now I've just got the 3 screws across the top to start, so let me just move over here. And, oh, I guess I already started one of them. So we've got this one, which is really hard to get to. That one. And then, you go get him, Jimmy. And then this one right here, which is, yeah, you guys can see. So that's definitely not lining up with the standoff below it, and that's why I don't have these screws tightened down. So what I can do right now is push this board forward, which is typical. Putting pressure on the board towards the back so that that standoff behind the mounting hole, or under the mounting hole, will be better aligned, which it is just simply not doing. I can kind of see where it's off. It just doesn't want to budge for some reason. I might have these other screws too tight. Let me just make sure that everything is, yeah, well, that's definitely loose. It just came out. Do it again. All right, good here. Good there. Maybe just a little looser here. Good. It's nice and loose. Now I should be able to push. Come on. It's requiring quite a bit of force to get that lined up. That's just the I/O shield pushing back, I guess. There it is. Now that one I'm going to let tighten, because at this point now I can go through and tighten everything. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it. That's it. So the board is secured, and now we can bring the case back up on its feet. As I walk around in circles, looking for my mouse again. Here we go. And now let's switch over to the main camera once again. There we go. And then we can bring the case back up like this. Okay, so what we're looking at now is our board installed into our case, and all we have to do at this point will be to do the cabling, right? So we're going to give it power. We've got to hook up our front port umbilicals. If you want to hook up the rear and front case fan, hook up the SATA and power to the optical drive, and then it's a matter of installing Windows. So back to the motherboard box, all the spare parts that I talked about. This is a good time now to just take a little break, you know, to just go through, and I don't need this Ziploc bag. We can get rid of this one because all this has is a power cable in it, and I don't know why that needs to be in a zip protective bag. It's not like you can scratch it. And then all the documentation and everything, all the spare screws, everything that we're not using will go in the motherboard box for future potential use. There's something called a Q connector that Asus includes, which is a joke. I don't like it. Gigabyte's implementation of the G connector is, in my opinion, a much better and more secure design. We are going to need a SATA cable, so I'll leave a SATA cable out. But we should be all done with these screws, I think. I still need to put one into the... You know what? Let me secure the DVD drive because that's what I said I was going to do. And that requires the screws that look just like this, except they have a finer thread. And those fine thread screws are typically used on optical drives and solid state drives when they require screws. And who knows, other devices like card readers and such may potentially require the fine thread versus the coarse thread. Looks like I just missed a contribution. I really just need to keep this mouse with me because it seems like I keep leaving it behind everywhere I just was. Flying Tech Bass has contributed $2. He says, good to see you back at work. Oh, speaking of Bass, my good friend and retired tech journalist Steve Bass wants to join me. And we're going to talk tech and maybe do reviews. He's in California, so he'll join me remotely. We'll probably use something like Skype. And he's a fun guy. You guys, some of you were here when he joined me before. And it's just, you know, he's got a whole career of knowledge in this field and a different way of looking at things that I find so refreshing and so relatable. And he's a very good communicator. So I'm very much looking forward to working with him on future builds. Oh, the screwdriver can go in here and this can go in here. And these are our case screws, so we don't want to lose those. Those go on the panels that go back. And this is junk and this is junk, so we'll throw that over there. And let me get these screws here. We just put one screw on each side for the optical drive. This is optional, but again, because this is being shipped, I want to make sure that everything is secured. I don't need anything breaking loose in shipping. It could happen even if I was just shipping it a mile away. And it's more likely to happen when I'm shipping it 2,300 miles away, which is more like what it's about to do. I have a buddy of mine who I used to work with, and he's also in a similar field, managed service providing, etc. And he's in Tennessee, and I was thinking of maybe taking a little short road trip to visit him and kind of vlogging along the way. Here to Tennessee is about 1,500 miles. It'd be about 21 and a half hours drive time, which should do in 2 days. And I just don't know if I have enough free time to do it. He's got a certain timeline and for the specific thing that we're discussing. And I think it'd be kind of a fun experiment to sort of vlog on the road, but I just don't know if that's possible at this time with everything else going on. So I'll keep you updated with that. If that doesn't happen, the plans for Michigan are still on for September, and then there's a potential for a couple other projects that are a little too early to discuss at this time, but just know that there's a lot of projects lined up. It's kind of amusing to me when somebody requests me to make a video. Like, they're not offering to pay me to make it. They'll say, for example, you should make a video about this problem I'm having. Fill in this problem I'm having with whatever problem they're having. And their belief is that if I made that video, it would be very popular and help other people with that problem. Because you're having it, you think everybody else would benefit and it would be a big video. The reality is that videos cost the money to make, and they take a lot of time to make. And there's already commitments I have with customers, and I can't just willy-nilly take random ideas to solve personal people's issues. And the assumption that it'll do well shows a great disconnect in how this whole process works. And while I appreciate your thought and your intent, please understand that there's never been a case where I have made a video based on somebody telling me what video I should make. I suggest to you, if you have a great idea for a video, you've got a cell phone, make the video. And then if it's watchable and the information is accurate, I will be glad to share it here on my channel and encourage people to subscribe to you. By the way, nobody offered that to me. Nobody ever said, hey, Carey, I'll help grow your channel with my channel. Nobody ever offered that to me. And if anybody did, it was for a lot of money. So I'm offering to do this for free. I will monetize your video, but that's it. And like I said, YouTube pays such a minuscule amount. I'm not getting rich off of you. And at the same time, if you were to pay advertising to promote your channel, it would cost tons and tons of money. So I offer people the opportunity, if you want to do what I do, if you want to make videos and you're just looking for a way to attract attention to your channel, you are welcome to send me your content and give me permission to publish it. It's a win for me, it's a win for you, and it's a win for the audience. And I would challenge you to find any other channel of my size or larger that would make that offer completely for free. Just doesn't exist to the best of my knowledge. And so if you have ideas for videos, what's stopping you from making them? That's it. A lot of people like to sit and be armchair quarterbacks and don't realize how much time and effort goes in to making what they think would be a simple video. And it gets really, really frustrating to talk to people when they absolutely refuse to even try. No, I know it's easy. Well, if it's so easy, you do it and send me the link, all right? All right. While you're watching videos, you can let a content creator know if you like their video content or if you don't like their video content. It has no impact on how much money video makes. It's just a way. So some people, like if they don't like a content creator, they just thumbs down all the videos. And what they don't realize they're doing is they're making that content creator more money. Every time you click on a video, regardless of how long you watch it, if the only reason you're clicking on it is to just hit thumbs down, you just made that content creator a little bit more money when you did that. So if you want to do that, you know, that's fine, but you're not punishing the content creator, you're actually helping the content creator. In fact, on search engine optimization, the way the search engine works is that it doesn't necessarily prioritize videos with more thumbs up or more thumbs down. It prioritizes controversy. So if there's more of a 50-50 thumbs up and thumbs down, that video is more likely to show up higher on the search or be recommended. They know what sells, right? Controversy sells, advertising sells, and this is all YouTube. I don't have any control over that. This is Google and YouTube and how they, a partial part of the equation of what's happening there. So below each video, there's a little thumbs up button. And if you like a video and you want to see more videos like that, all you have to do is click on that little thumbs up, right? And that tells the content creator more like this. And if you don't like that, then the thumbs down. It doesn't punish anybody. It's not, it has no impact. And so if you're just thinking like, I don't like this person and I'm just gonna thumbs down everything, you're actually benefiting them when you do it. Bad content should not be viewed at all. The biggest way that you can punish a YouTube content creator is to not click on their content. Don't suggest other people. Don't go, this guy is so bad. And they'll go, really? Let me see. That's made people a lot of money by making bad content that people, some people will make bad content on purpose, knowing that they'll make more money because of it. So be careful what you're voting. Also, there's a subscribe button, and when you click that subscribe button, there's also a little bell notification, and make sure you tag that bell. And what that's going to do is, if you like a YouTube channel, when you subscribe to it, you're not doing the content creator any favor. The content creator doesn't get paid anymore. If anything, you might be more worth more to a sponsor, but I don't have sponsors, so it doesn't benefit me one way or the other. whether or not I have 2 subscribers or 2 million subscribers doesn't change anything. It doesn't change my paycheck. It doesn't change how much YouTube pays. What I'm paid on is based on how many minutes of my videos are watched, not which videos are watched or how long they're watched, just how many total viewed minutes. So if you're clicking on a 2-hour video, but you're fast forwarding through it, only the parts that are playing add up to minutes. And based on that, that's what the check or the amount paid is. So if you're clicking on every video and you're jumping through it, it's not the same. They are fully aware of how many watchable minutes, and it's all in the analytics. And if you guys are curious how that works, YouTube payments are based on not how many videos you have and not whether thumbs up or thumbs down or subscribers. YouTube doesn't consider any of that. All you're being paid on is how many minutes of watched video. That's it. Actually watching it. Skipping through it doesn't get paid. So the parts where you stop skipping and you let it run, those were all payable. So you know, if you want to support a YouTube content creator, watch their videos. Don't skip through them, and let them play. The more watched minutes, the more money they make. If you want to punish a YouTube creator, don't watch their video, don't click on it, stay away from them. That'll be the harshest punishment you can do, is to not recommend them, don't click on it, don't thumbs down it, just avoid it. And then, you know, there's fewer watched minutes, because by clicking on it, the thumbs down it, the video plays and the watched minutes add up. Just so you know. And by subscribing, you don't automatically get the notifications. I don't know why, but when you subscribe to a channel, you're telling YouTube, you're not telling the content creator, you're telling YouTube, I want to receive notifications every single time a new video is posted or a new live video starts from each subscription. And you can enable or disable those notifications by hitting the little bell icon that appears after you're subscribed. Okay, so we're clear. So there's the thumbs up if you want to hit thumbs up, and then there's the subscribe and the bell notification if you want to use that. When you watch my live videos, I have a feature turned on called DVR. What that means is there's a longer delay between when I talk and when you hear me, but in exchange for that, you can rewind a live video. So if you're jumping in midstream and you wonder what you missed, you can rewind it and catch up with us, or stay behind, but you know, be a longer delay for you, and that way you don't miss anything, and you're not interrupting the stream by saying, hey everybody, I'm really, really important, and I want you to personally tell me what I've missed, as though I'm the boss and you work for me. It's really weird that people have that sense of entitlement, and I can't stop you from doing it, but it's very rare that you'll ever get a response of any reasonable explanation of the content that you missed, because it would take forever to write a book to tell you what you missed, and all you have to do is scroll back. So anyway, if anybody has any questions about this process, I mean, this will be the time to ask. I'm trying to take a little break before I get into wiring, and I'm debating right now if I will continue the wiring today, because the lighting is really, really getting dark in here, and this is something that requires much better light because we're dealing with little wires and such. So I'm kind of leaning towards picking this up, if not this weekend, then finishing it on Monday. So if you have questions, now would be the time to ask. 811, it contributed $2 again. Looks like I just missed that. Great taste in music, Carey. I jam at work. That's cool. Yeah, that damn song, man. I just can't get that thing out of my head. Every once in a... Sometimes there's songs that play on the radio and I don't like them at first, but after the radio, I hear it over and over and over, it starts to grow on me like a fungus. This song was one that just instantly, the lyrics and the music just connected with me, and I love it when that happens because it doesn't happen very often, and that's one of those songs. Gary Malix Keith has contributed $1. Thank you. What do I do with the PCs when you're done with them? All these computers are ordered by customers. Everything you see on my channel is so a lot of people still confuse a hobbyist and a tech enthusiast with a professional technician. I'm paid to do all the technical work you see happen on this channel, with few exceptions that are my own personal projects. There's no sponsors providing the equipment, so I'm not rich. I'm not a trust fund baby. I have to earn everything that I have, and I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. Given that I'm not a Kardashian, you know, or a Trump. I wasn't born into money, far from it, and so I have had to. I've started with nothing, and I'm very proud to say I have most of it still. But if you want to see something specific on the channel, if you order it from me and you give me permission to film it, then that's how these videos get made. This computer was ordered by a gentleman named Madi, and he has paid for all of the parts. I don't sell computer parts, so he has paid for all the parts. I recommended what parts based on his needs and his budget and his expectations, answered his questions and concerns. We move forward with ordering, and then I assemble it and mail it to him. I'm not selling the parts. I'm not profiting off of this in any way, shape, or form. Whatever the video makes is the only way that I get paid. Sharon Idles contributed £5. She says it's been a long time, so paying my dues. Carey Kardashian, LOL. Yeah, Carey Kardashian. No, no, thank you. Please do not provide me with scammer phone numbers. I need you guys to stop that. You need to realize you're one of several dozen people just hounding me and practically spamming me. Scammer phone numbers are very easy. Until the laws change and until the phone system is required to authenticate the source of the calls, they're never going to stop. They're very easy. At any moment in time, finding a scammer number is incredibly simple. Please stop providing them. They're not rare or difficult. At a moment's time, I can find 2 or 3 dozen. All I have to do is push a button. So I understand your intent, but all it is white noise to me. So please do not provide those anymore. Hugh Gordon has contributed £2. He says, great videos, Carey. Love your videos. Thank you, Hugh. Thank you. See what I did there? Huh? He's only heard that 10,000 times in his life, I'm sure. Is it worth it to get an SSD for a motherboard that only supports SATA 2? I can't answer that. You'll have to make that decision on your own. SSDs are cheap, so it's not like it's a big risk for you. For me, it's worth it to get an SSD just for the reliability factor, but that's me. You may think differently. Is it worth it to get the chicken with the cheese on top or without it? I mean, if you like it with the cheese on top, get it. How do you know if you like it? Have you had it before? If not, try it. I don't know how to answer these. Is this good? Is this better? Quite a question. But I will point you out to a website that may help you in these decisions. Let's say, for example, you were curious if you should buy an 8700K versus a 2700X, let's say, processor. There's a website and it's called userbenchmark.com. And with userbenchmark.com, let's see if we can turn some screen capture on and I can show you. Let's see, screen capture. Where is it? Add. Display capture. Go. Ah, there we go. Good. Okay, so here we've got this website right here, cpu.userbenchmark.com. And you can compare anything you want to compare. You want to compare one CPU versus another? Do you want to compare one GPU against another? Do you want to compare one SSD against another? Do you want to compare one hard drive against another? Do you want to compare some RAM against another kind of RAM? Do you want to compare one type of USB flash drive against another type of USB flash drive? All this information is available to you, and all you have to do is push a few buttons on your keyboard. You don't have to ask random strangers on the internet. All of the research and curiosity that you have is easily answered by yourself. And this is one of many sites. I am very impressed with how comprehensive and thorough this site is. You can practically compare any CPU to any other CPU. In this example, if we want to compare, you know, how many are in the list here? 244. No, it's still going. There's 1,000. No, it's still going. Are we at the bottom? So let's compare an Intel Atom versus, so I don't know what the mathematical computations involved in this are, but 1144 times 1144 combinations would equal the total amount of answers that you can get in combinations of what's better than what. And this works with GPUs too. Should I get, for example, a GTX, I don't know, if I've got a 980 Ti, would it be worth it to me to upgrade to a GTX 1080 Ti? And you can see prices, price differences, you can see the performance difference, and you can see for yourself, depending on how you use it, if any of these particular features are important to you. You can see actual game measurements for each one for different games. So depending on what game you play, at what resolution, here they're all at 1080p, settings on max is how they've done this. This is a valuable resource to those of you who want to educate yourselves, and nobody can tell you what's better than what. They don't tell you that. They only tell you this is compared to this. Whether or not it's better is only up to you, and nobody else can make up that. There's no one right answer. There's only the answer that's right for you. So be aware the site exists. Again, that's at userbenchmark.com, and it's a very rich site filled with all kinds of comprehensive information. It's completely free to use, and you can educate yourself until you feel like you don't need to anymore. In other words, you can be more self-reliant and know that the information that you're getting, the source of it is legitimate, and it's not some, weirdo or stranger on the internet, on Reddit or something that has a funky screen name. This is legit. Okay? Okay. All right. Hopefully that went through. I hope it did. Let's see. Yeah, that went through. Good. Stephen Foots wants to know if it's okay to have two different makes of RAM sticks in your computer. Sometimes it can be and sometimes it can't be. You just have to try it and see. The important thing is the CAS latency of the RAM is the same, but that doesn't guarantee compatibility. If you want a guarantee, then you have to buy the same make and model of everything being identical. If you want to gamble and see if it works, then the only way you're going to know the answer to your question is to try it and see. Carrie, what brand of solid state drive do you mainly use? If you look in my video library, and I'll show you how to use that, we'll go back to the screen capture utility here, and let's turn display capture back on, and let's go back over to here, and let's go to my YouTube channel. Again, most of the questions you guys are asking are the same questions that have been asked over and over and over and over and over again, so you don't have to keep repeating everything. It's all here for you. All you have to do is go to my channel, which is right here. Just click on any video. So if we bring up this video, for example, click on videos, right? And you can see all of my videos, and you can sort them based on popularity, or you can sort them based on date, oldest first or newest first. Now, to answer your question, you would type in to Google search, Kerry Holzman SSD, and hit enter. And then you'll see lots of videos about upgrades, the difference. And if we keep going down, you want to know how long an SSD will last. Do you want to know how to choose the right SSD? Oh, that's from Asus. That's even from me. But right here, you see it says quick tips, my favorite SSD brands. That answers the very question you just asked me, and it took less typing than what you had to type to ask the question. So I'm hoping to make you guys more self-reliant so you're not constantly asking other people for help, but that you're helping yourself. I'd much rather provide you a map than personally drive you there. You see what I'm getting at? Teach a man to fish, that's all I'm saying. All right, let's get that screen capture off. There we go. All right, so back to the chat. So I think what I'll do, chat room's really quieted down. I think what I'll do is, I'm not sure what my availability this weekend is going to be just yet, but I have the graphics card yet to install. And we're also going to add a Wi-Fi card that hasn't arrived in the mail yet. And that'll probably be here Monday. So I might just wait till Monday to finish this. I won't do anything on this off camera so you guys can enjoy, and see every step that's taken. We're adding an Asus, it's like a $105 Wi-Fi card. It's the card I use when I've showed it before. In fact, I've installed one in one of the Nuka-Cola builds. It's that same card, and for whatever reason, it's delayed. So I just thought, well, it doesn't really change anything as far as the build goes, and I wasn't quite sure if I was going to do this all in one day or not, but due to the interruptions and things that have occurred, here we are. So that may work out for the best. So what I have left to do is install the Wi-Fi card, install the graphics card, hook up all the power, data, and umbilicals, and then we should be ready to install Windows 10, and then soon after that get it shipped off to its owner in Florida if everything works as it should, and 9,999 times out of 10,000. That's usually the way it works. That's how rare problems with components are. Tony Wallows contributed $1.99, a shout out and a thank you to Tony. Jesse Kirk has contributed $6.99. Says, great stream as always. Keep up the good work, my friend. Again, thank you to a frequent contributor, and makes me very proud to have a supporter like Jesse Kirk. for your generosity. And then looks like there was another one in here somewhere. Oh, one has contributed $5, and he says, just saying, when you priced one of your computers online, I think you're streaming Ryzen. It was so cool to see your brain try to pick the components. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Jimmy's P4DES has contributed $2. Keyboard in dishwasher video. So you have to understand that when they're paying clients, all of those videos take precedent. They take priority, rather. They are paramount of importance to get those videos done. Anything that I do on the side for projects that are just my own ideas that have no financial support to pay for them, those videos are done as time permits. So the busier I get, the further down a priority list those videos become. So the video that you're asking about, I've made a couple where I've put the keyboards in the dishwashers. There should be 2 out there on my channel somewhere. I don't remember. There's over 650 videos on my channel. I know the recent one that I did, I never completed because I haven't had time. And what ends up happening after so much time passes is I have to start over from the beginning again and do it all over, because it loses consistency, or continuity rather, through the, if I started filming it 4 years ago and then I finish filming it today, you're gonna go, how did he get so old from one scene to the next? How did his hair get longer? How did so much change? And so it interrupts the video and I have to just start from scratch again. And this last keyboard video I started, it's buried somewhere under a bunch of other projects. I still have the interactive build with Mitch that we have to complete, and that's a very high priority, as well as the router review video and the computer giveaway stuff and showing how you can use a refurbished computer. And I have some obligations to those people involved in those videos, and everything else other than that is not important to me. And when I have free time to make videos, I may not revisit that video right away. There may be something else that's topical and of the moment that I want to make, and that will ideally be of more interest than more than one person asking me. So that's the way it works until people are starting to pay for content. Now, if somebody says, Carey, I'm going to give you a few $100 if you make a video on this, we can discuss that. But as long as you're getting the content for free, I'm happy that you're watching it, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you understand that it's free content. At the end of the day, it's costing you nothing, and somebody else is footing the bill for it. And I need you to understand how that's possible, that these expenses are being covered. But it's contributions like the $1 from Nighthawk that just came in that helped that. And like I said, it's one thing to commission a video, it's another thing to just expect it to be free and somehow it's all going to get magically paid for. And just have that little consideration, and videos get done as they get done. I don't know how else to explain it to you. If the videos paid me by the hour, I could schedule things better, but they don't, and as a result, everything has to be prioritized based on urgency. Gil Garcia says, I just donated $20. Thank you, Gil. And anybody who donates through tech-vets.com, you will get a personal email from me as long as you have an email address associated with your PayPal account. If you don't, there's no way for me to reach out to you. When I do reach out to you, contributions of $20 or more, I, in exchange, very happily will mail you a metal engraved case badge that ships anywhere in the world. So that's how I give back to the people who give to me. Is the new router great? I will say there's one thing about this this new XR700 router from Netgear that I absolutely love. It's got active lights for everything plugged in, and I can literally look at the router and see which computer is talking to which device on the network by which lights are blinking together. I can see which two things are talking, and it's really cool because I can, for example, if I'm streaming something to my TV, I can see the port on the internet port blinking, I can see the port on the streamer blinking, and I can see the port on, no, I guess maybe that's it. Anything that the stream is crossing over on the network or data is crossing over from one computer to another, the lights are big and the blink is not so fast as to not be detectable. It's just the right speed. So I can literally just look at the router and see what's happening on my network, which that's my favorite thing ever. It really is. And it would be great in the background of a sci-fi movie because, you know, if you didn't know what was happening, there's no pattern to the blinks, right? It's not like you go 1, 2, 3, blink, 1, 2, 3. It's completely whatever is happening. And if you understand and know what's plugged into what port, this tells you everything as far as I'm concerned to network activity on, at least on a small network anyway. And the Asus router, it had lights as well, but they weren't quite as bold. And I don't think that I think they were too subtle to tell what was talking to what. In fact, it's been years. This is like old school. Back in the day when you had like a hub, you could actually see the light blinking when the data was moving slower, and you could see what was moving data to where, from where. And this is kind of reminding me of those old school days with old networking hardware that, you know, data was transmitted a lot slower. Now it's cool, and it also shows me very boldly during the data transfer what color the light is if I'm at 100 megabit or gigabit, which is very important to know. So for example, I have an old video streamer that's only 100 megabit, and it lights up in red. So I don't have to memorize which port I plugged it into. I know it's the red one. And so the red one blinks no differently than the blue ones. It just tells me that it's connected at 100 megabit, and that's megabit. And that's important to me because should it be running at 100 megabit or is something wrong? A lot of people don't even realize that they're running a gigabit network at 1/10 of its speed because they just don't know enough to correct it. And they don't realize it's wrong. And so to have that just visually in front of me at all times is very reassuring, and it's, forget everything else about the router. That in and of itself pleases me. As for how it's working, it's running right now. I'm streaming off of it. It's been very reliable. I'm not having the wireless drops that I had on the Asus router. They didn't happen very often on the Asus router, and they tended to happen after running it for a while. I think it was maybe heat related. I'm not certain. And I may not be pushing this new Netgear router as hard as I push the Asus router yet. So it may be too early to make a claim that that's better. I think it's better, but I'm not. It feels like it's better, but it might be wishful thinking. I might be seeing it the way I want to see it. But so far, so good. I am not disappointed by anything on this router yet. But I'm sure I'll find something. But the best way to test something isn't to run benchmarks. The best way to test something is to plug it in and start using it. Because if it meets your needs and expectations, benchmarks don't matter. You're the only benchmark that matters to you. Your benchmark doesn't matter to me, and it doesn't matter to anybody else. So I want you to remember that. Benchmarks are nothing more than to give you an idea of what to expect, but ultimately only you can decide if you're happy. A piece of hardware can't tell you that. A piece of software can't tell you. Well, it shouldn't. You shouldn't base whether or not you're happy based on what a piece of software or hardware tells you. Otherwise, you're just asking the robots to take over the world at that point. You know, you're like, you need to exercise human judgment and determine if something makes you happy. If you have to read numbers and based on those numbers determines your happiness, then you're already a slave to the technology. The technology always needs to be a slave to you, to the mankind, not the other way around. And too many people are using the technology as though they're secondary. Like when a phone beeps because a text message comes in, people stop what they're doing like a good little slave, and they go and they read their text, and they stop and prioritize that. So that makes you a slave to it. It is ruling you. When somebody has a thermostat that they've programmed to go off at a certain time and they're like, oh, I better get to bed before the thermostat goes off, you're a slave to it. That's not the way this technology was ever intended, and you shouldn't be using it that way. It should be accommodating to you. When your phone beeps, you get to it whenever you have time. You don't stop what you're doing. You don't interrupt your driving. Whatever it is, it can wait. It's nothing important. I promise you. There is, even if it's important, it won't change. Nothing's going to change. You understand? So if you get a text while you're driving and it's something serious, nothing you can do about it. You're in your car. So pull over or check it when you have time. If it's something serious, then adjust whatever you need to do, turn around and go where you need to go. But 9 times out of 10, probably 9,000 times, 999,000 times out of a million, it's just somebody going, hey, how's it going? What are you doing later? How far are you? Are you coming over? You don't have to prioritize that. Don't be a slave to the technology. You be the one who rules the technology. Because you're going down a dangerous path. I promise you, whatever text message or voicemail you get will be there for you later when it's safe and you're ready to check it. You don't have to be on it constantly. It will wait for you. It is the most patient thing in the world. It does not require an immediate response. And if you're expecting something that requires an immediate response, then don't put yourself in a position like being behind the wheel of a car. Just be a passenger or be somewhere where you're available to do that. You might think you're good at multitasking, but you're not. You're not as good as you think, and you're not as self-aware, nobody is, as they think they are. Use this. Use this more than you use this. That's all I'm saying. Use this as a tool, but don't let it rule your life. You rule your life. Gary is coming 29th of January. Where am I going on the 29th of January? Sure would be nice if somebody would let me know. Thanks for letting me know where I'm supposed to be, because I don't know what you're talking about. Terry says he's contributed $25 through PayPal. He says he enjoys the videos and wanted to help me out. Thank you, Terry, and we'll make you a moderator. No such problems if you are forever alone. That sounds like heaven. If I could be forever alone, I'd be one of the happiest people on planet. I think we're caught up. I think everything is caught up here. So given that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. It's pitch dark outside now, so I don't have any light. So for everybody who's watching, thank you guys for watching. For everybody who's contributed, of course, my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for your support and your kindness. And I will see you all again very soon, and we'll finish up the build. And like I say, still have the laptop review, the router review, the other refurbished computer update, and ship that off. There's a second one of those that's going to go to a lucky person. And these are not contests, these are not raffles, this is simply a giveaway. I'm just choosing to give it away because you guys make it possible for me to do that. As the community gives, I give back. It's a nice, wonderful thing we've got going on here, and we'll do everything we can to make this bigger and stronger and better the longer we do it. And we just isolate the troublemakers and keep them out until they want to behave. And then, you know, we'll change the world, or at least our part of it. So until next time, I'll see you all very, very soon. I'm going to be ready to click this button And when I click this button, my title's gonna end, or my outro. You ready? Bye for now.